Are we live?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I don't even know how many viewers we have. Maybe just you and me.
That's fine. Love that.
Fine. I love speaking with you, Luca.
Thank you, Alexander.
I don't know if someone listening, but me and Luca know each other for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We've been back and forth in email. We've been introduced through friends, and it's just a great pen pal, great conversations. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Alexander, for having me. Excited to do this.
Excited to do this too. This is my first time being on air ever, probably. So
nice. Congrats.
Have mercy. Okay, I have one person that said we're here. Okay, good to know. All right, so Luca, you have a pretty unusual path from uni to founder, from founder to engineer, from engineer to creator.
Yeah.
And in your bio it says that you founded a startup and you were overseeing scaling from 0 to tens of millions of customers.
Yeah.
Can you tell me
I'm guilty.
2 words about like how does it feel to go and like seeing all those customers fill up your product, and like how does it feel?
It was an incredible experience, especially because founding a startup and so being a CTO was actually my very first job right after university. So I didn't know how to do pretty much anything. Our startup was in the travel space, so we let people book and plan trips, comparing flights, trains, buses, all modes of transport. And it got very popular here in Italy, in our domestic market. So more than 20 million customers eventually. We scaled the team, raised venture capital. It was an incredible experience that lasted almost 10 years. And it's still, I would say, the defining experience of my career. Then I went on to do other things, but it was incredible, really.
Wow. I'm sure it was very unsettling and anxious to just have all those users and like you say you didn't know what to do because it was first job. I'll tell you what, I have many jobs after my college, after university, and this is not my first startup, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So
I think it's a feeling that never changes when you're a founder, when you're running a product. And I think especially in Italy, back in the day in 2012, 2013, I mean, the ecosystem and the whole startup people were very few peers, to compare notes and check our respective experiences. So it were exciting times, also very scary, but fantastic, really, in hindsight.
But I'll tell you what, we're a little off topic, but I'll tell you what, I also was in a community where there were not a lot of founders, but those connections were like made for life. This small community of founders, it's made for life. We're still in touch, very close. All right.
Same here.
Cool. Okay, good to hear. We're gonna speak about AI and how AI gonna influence programming.
Yeah.
So you have this newsletter that I love reading, even though I'm not engineering and not even engineering manager. I'm not even a good manager, but still love reading and love to your thoughts, how you thought process. and let's speak about AI. So
Let's go.
my question is kind of jokey, but it's not joke. But there's a meme going around Twitter that the new programming language is English. There's a new
Yeah,
framework, new language is English.
yeah.
What do you think? Is AI gonna replace engineers in the future?
No, I mean, no, I don't think so. I don't think for the foreseeable future AI is going to replace engineers. I may even reply, with a counter joke and say that I've read on Twitter somewhere that if you are a stakeholder or a client, ChatGPT is able to write perfect code given that you're able to give it perfect requirements, perfect specs. So for now, developers are safe because basically we as humans are not able to do that. So I think, I mean, jokes aside, I think, of course, productivity of engineers is going to go up. And I would say the leverage of single individuals is going up. But that means that companies who have engineers already are just, I think, are just going to do more with them, because each single engineer is empowered to do more because it creates value. It doesn't make sense to think that so I have to fire some people because now the other people are able to do more. I just do more with them. So I think that's what will likely happen. And of course, I mean, when it comes to new companies, to startups, they are going to get more mileage out of the same people, out of a maybe small founding team or even solopreneurs. So uh, that's going to increase their leverage too. But all in all, I think it would be very good for engineers eventually.
This is a good answer. This is a good. I totally agree. It's not just about engineering in every field. It's gonna be like that. Of course, there's gonna be maybe done more with the less people, but
Yeah,
it also gonna create more jobs in other spaces too. But
absolutely.
like jokes aside, I'm a like Twitter rat, right? Like I spend on Twitter too
I
much
know
time,
you are.
and like every other thread on Twitter is, oh, AI got something new. This is new. This is new, and like I stopped following all this news because the AI is developing too fast and it's hard to keep up.
It
But
is.
like giving the rapid growth and given and that there's already a lot of implementations and a lot of impact of AI on programming. What should engineers right now do to stay adapt and relevant in the industry?
That's a great question, especially because it's one of the questions that I get asked the most, also through the newsletter in the community. And I think the good answer directly stems from the fact that, as you said, this space is moving so fast that we still don't know exactly how AI will change the workflows of the development process, how it will change how team works. So I think your best bet as an engineer is to just spend some time playing with it. I mean, forcing yourself a little bit, trying to embed it into your regular workflow, into your regular coding, even if you feel like for some things you're not going to be more productive, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but play with it. I mean, force yourself to do something with it. You can even be the person in your team or in your company that advocates for it, that gets known because he's trying to do things with that, as opposed to the guy who is resisting it, or sticks with his own workflows, because we all have inertia. We all have our own ways of doing things, and when there is something new, even if it is potentially better, it's not always that we stop in our tracks and we try that, while instead we should really do that. But I think if we just spend some time regularly playing with it and embedding it into our work, whatever way, engineers are going to be fine.
Interesting. You said that you get a lot of questions in newsletter, and you told me that you have like over 30,000 readers that
Yeah,
read your newsletter every week. Are people
yeah.
panicking? Like, do you feel like there's like a
Uh, I think as with all big shifts in technology or perceived shifts, you have people reacting in different ways. You have the skeptics, people who think this is not really going to change things because you have all these limitations, etc. Those who are enthusiastic about new things and jump into the next big thing and try to do stuff with that. Um, but I wouldn't say there are people who are really panicking. I would say, if I had to identify clusters, I would probably cluster people into these two categories. I mean, either people feel safe because they think this is not going to change their work, or they're kind of excited because they see their productivity going up. Uh, so I see people kind of embracing AI or rejecting it altogether, but not being threatened, at least from my angle, from my little corner, little point of view.
Yeah, but it seems that in such a small pace, and it's not a small pace to be honest. AI has been developing for decades,
Yeah,
and like even like
absolutely.
latest technologies and latest advancements were like 7 years of advancements. Um,
Absolutely.
this is what we see because we're like the whole internet is just echo chamber of what's going on. So people didn't pay attention for 7 years. They paid
Yeah.
attention only for the last few months. That's why it feels like it's developing too fast. Um, interesting. You're saying that. And let's say there is a way to, there is a reason to panic. Let's say AI
Mm,
begins to write more and more code and will do more and more repetitive tasks that right now is
yeah.
done by engineers, like
Yeah.
and it will execute on tasks that you say verbally, and just write more code from the description that you're giving.
Yeah.
How do you see that the job market of is changing? Are engineers going to be writing more tests, or how do you see like the real change, technical
Yeah.
change?
I think this is a very interesting space because we are all just learning what these tools are good at or are better or worse at, right? Because we all started, trying to make ChatGPT, for example, or Copilot, whatever, write full applications like from simple prompts, trying to make them write full software from natural plain English, uh, and of course, people are also recognizing that it's not probably the best use case. So they're then trying to niche it down and finding also what are specific things that AI is particularly good at, and we are starting to find these step by step. For example, we are starting to see that AI is good at writing tests, for example, or we might end up, with a different workflows where the AI writes the code and we write the test, to verify that the AI has written the right code. We are discovering that AI is very good at explaining what code does, even if you wrote the code yourself. So I think we will eventually carve, what are some specific use cases for which AI is very good, and focus and tailor workflows also around this. And I do not necessarily think that there would be, a broad use case, at least from the get go, about AI writing full big features or full application from scratch. I don't think it will happen because we are starting to see some limitations. When it comes to the job market, one thing that I believe will happen is we will probably see more full stack engineers, and we will accelerate the transition that I think it's already kind of in place towards more product engineers rather than layered engineers that do only front end and only back end, because I think it's not like you have to be an expert in everything, but maybe you have a core platform that is your expertise. Maybe it's front end, but you know a little bit how to do the back end for small PRs, small changes. This was already happening, but AI makes it even easier, and it's a big productivity boost for teams to be able to have people who can own small things from top to bottom. So I think the pendulum will swing back towards people who are able to operate on the whole stack, also helped by AI. This is something I'm seeing also.
Interesting. You said that, and I saw the examples how AI is explaining code, and the
Yeah,
funny thing that explaining code is a big thing. I don't know, like
it is.
especially for us not engineers, explaining was a big thing because when I studied Lemonade, it was coding ninjas before. We usually worked with small projects, and there were projects where we were very involved because we're trying to learn how can we what kind of product we can what kind of value we can give to clients. And the biggest thing was introducing a developer into a new an existing product. And like the first thing is like,
Absolutely.
I don't even I don't even know what
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
here.
yeah. No,
and
absolutely.
that's
And it's good. There are so many workflows that are impacted by this because, for example, it's like you get to write a lot of documentation with minimal effort with respect to before. And we know that developers are not, super happy about writing docs usually. It's also easier, as you said, to onboard people on new projects. It enables a bunch of new things that we didn't think were possible, and we didn't even think were necessarily the first, primary uses of AI,
mhm.
because I think there's a bias that AI is like generative, so we tend to think first that things where he creates stuff. Like I give you a prompt and you create something, but not necessarily that it's good at the reasoning on things that you give it. While instead it seems like it is good at doing that. It's good at summarizing stuff, at explaining what it does, even finding mistakes in code. It's also good at that.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I read your article in your newsletter about AI and
Yeah,
programming. I don't have it on me, unfortunately, but someone from my team could throw it in the comments so people have access to it. Or we're gonna maybe follow up with it.
yeah,
When in article you mentioned that there's a lack of feedback loop for AI when the bugs are found.
yeah.
And how do you think, like, how can we implement an effective feedback mechanism for coding tools?
Yeah, I think this is a very tricky subject, but very important to sort out. And I also think not people are not thinking about this hard enough because this is going to have an impact on how we write code as an industry if AI gets widespread and we write more and more code with it. Because when you think about where we stand right now as an industry, I mean, the reason why open source has won, we can say, because 99% of code that runs on servers is open source, is that primarily is a very efficient model because in theory, think about that. If you have a problem, you can write code to solve it, and you can share it with people, all the people who have the same problem, like millions of people. They all get the same solution that you have written exactly once. And likewise, if there is an issue, if there is a problem, you might fix it, or another contributor might fix it, and the update, to some degree, gets pushed to everybody. And so you can't be literally more efficient than that. And the way we are using, for example, ChatGPT to write code, it's not like that because me and you maybe send the same prompt to ChatGPT. Uh, let's, for the sake of simplicity, saying that this is deterministic, it gives the same answer. We know it's not exactly that, but let's say so. Maybe this answer contains a problem, contains a bug, and we don't talk to each other. We don't have a shared way of fixing this, so both you and I have to fix the same problem twice, and this at scale basically becomes a nightmare because as an industry we do not move forward with the same efficiency as before. So uh, I think the main problem is that at the current stage, these systems are still black boxes that we don't know much about because we don't know which data they're trained on, how they're trained on data, how they are refreshed and updated. They're not open source, so it's not only that there is not a feedback loop, but there isn't because we are not in control of that, and so we cannot design it as an industry. And so I think that in the future, we will necessarily gravitate towards open source models and AI, if this has to be, a core, has to become a core component of the dev process.
It's true, and as you see, most of things that we do in um, most things that we use for business for our skills usually become collaborative. Even like there are
Yeah,
collaborative browsers or design tools, developing tools. So if eventually will come. It will come to the same way where there's more collaborating between more people on a
yeah.
specific thing. But don't you think that that feedback loop for like working with AI on some programming task is more unique to each person? Because I don't know if we're talking about right now bugs in in code or bugs in logic, but the logic is very different for every person for every specific case. So shouldn't be it shouldn't it be more personal, the bug fixing, the feedback loop with AI?
Yeah, I think this is a great question because it depends on the fact that of how we interact with AI as of today and also maybe in the future. Because one difference with respect to other, enabling technologies that have come up in tech before is that this is not like a new abstraction layer that makes things simpler because it abstracts some logics. It is simply like we have new co-workers that do exactly the same work as ours. So the communication, the pattern, the way we interact with AI is very human. You are seeing that we chat with them, we talk with them, we embed them into Slack, we will embed them, into conference calls probably. Like whenever there is already a collaboration between humans, we think naturally of adding AI there because AI, as of today, behaves with like a human with patterns of interactions that are the ones between humans, and that of course reflects on feedback as well. So yeah, I think feedback will be also personal, and we will have to have a reliable way to make that feedback back into the system so that the system improves, and we know that it improves thanks to the feedback.
Sometimes AI feels like a virtual assistant that you ever want to,
Yeah,
um, so the person you can talk every time and ask simple questions and have them do some of the work that you don't want to dig in. But
yeah.
yeah, you said an interesting thing that that because AI is not open source, we have no knowledge of how it works. Do you think AI should be open source?
Yes, I think so, definitely. I think there are many issues, and some of them, have been raised by companies, by individuals, by the fact that today we don't know much about these systems. I'm seeing here the question by Mikhailo exactly about this. He's asked, there are a group of people who think that any code generated by AI is hacky and cannot be used in commercial projects as it does not contain a license. What do you think about that? This is basically your question, the fact that we all have these systems that we don't know how they work. We don't know the data they were trained on. We don't know exactly the license, commercial license of the stuff that they output. So there has to be more transparency if we really believe that this will be the next leap forward. uh, it's not just about license, it's about uh, even how they treat your personal data. I'm Italian. There's big debate here in Italy because Italy even banned ChatGPT for a while. I don't know if you read about it, because the privacy law, the privacy regulation said that the product was not clear about how they use user data that were input into the system, and so it couldn't be trusted. And while, of course, the ban might be seen by somebody as a bit extreme, it is kind of true that we don't know what happens, to data that gets in there. And I think it's unreasonable, at scale, that we all have just to trust that things are going to be fine. Uh, we have to find a better way.
Right. But then also, and I agree in that, but also, I think this is an even more complex question because you saw other things that are open source. Let's say Wikipedia is open source, but
Yeah,
Wikipedia is abused all the time
yeah,
because it's open source. It's abused all the time. It's not, a lot of information is not genuine. There are a lot of questions about the type of information is there and revisions and everything. A lot of politics over there,
yeah,
inside the community of editors. So like from the other side,
yeah,
it's also can be abused not just by the company if it's centralized by a company and you don't know how they treat your data. Um, but from the other side, if
yeah.
it's open source, it can be abused from the other side by public by by scam artists.
Yeah,
Is
no, absolutely. I mean, by any means, the open source model is not perfect, and there are still open questions about how this would work. It's the AI workflow and pipeline is made of many things. There is the training data, there are the weights, there are many things, and so we should figure out the way that works best for this. I mean, when I talk about open source, it's like in a broad definition, in a way that doesn't put us in the situation where we just have to trust, that one or two big private companies are doing good things with our data, and they implement the right feedback loop. If this is going to be something that every development team uses in a daily basis to produce like 30% of their code or even more.
Right. And we've been there. We've been there with many companies like Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, like we thought we could trust Amazon, but then Amazon starts replacing sellers with their own products and using the data from those products, understanding where is the demand, where is the competition, and how they can overcompete the other
Yeah.
sellers on their own platform. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
I think there will be, a maybe not even short period of time in which these things are a little bit blurry, and cannot find a good solution for them. And what I think will happen is that this will give more leverage to startups that basically don't care and will just move forward and use this. And I mean, good for them, they're right. But
Yeah.
I also understand, big organizations who say, hey, I don't want to put my own IP, my own, code into this, and I don't know what happens. I mean, I can't blame them really. So,
100%.
if anything, this will, I think, will at least, temporarily, will make the gulf of productivity that already is big most of the times between corporations and startups even bigger, probably.
Hmm. Yeah. Look, I can dig over here forever. I think we could speak here for hours. I want to, if you don't mind, I want to take a few questions from people
Sure.
who are listening. And I know there are a couple of people that are listening. So, okay. Um, Jakub from our community. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. I'm just a dumb person over here. Do you think AI workflows will be part of the personal space of engineers, or will companies try to structuralize it?
That's a great question. um, I think right now and for the foreseeable future, AI workflows will be part of the personal space, because we still haven't figured out how to make this to create like a synergy at the team
Yeah.
level, and create good structures around this. But I think that there will probably be benefits that can be unlocked by creating structure at the company level eventually. Think about, I mean, right now we are kind of everybody using these AI models that are work out of the box. But I can think easily of a future where each company has a model that is fine tuned on their own data, their own documentation, their own code base. And so, just like you will have some more tailored stuff for your company, I think there will be workflows that are pretty much implemented and encouraged at the team level, rather than only in the personal space of engineers. Maybe the personal space will always stay there, but there will also be a good way of using it at the team level.
Right. Yeah. Collaboration will be a big shift for sure.
Yeah.
Again, like you saw this already in different tools for AI. Like me and my co-founder wanted to work on terms of use, and I came up with some things. Then, like, if let's say my co-founder has a concerns about this, certain part of the terms of use, we can discuss it somewhere, and then how do we implement those discussions into the new responses from ChatGPT? Uh,
Yes.
it's true. Collaboration will be a big shift, and I'm sure there are companies working because it's a very obvious thing. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, a little bit more generic question that I have. How do you see AI role evolving in development process in next 5 to 10 years?
So this is one of those questions where whatever answer you give, y- the risk is that you will look very stupid, not just in a few years, but in a few months or weeks, you know. So I personally think, because there have been many clues about that, that the growth in terms of capability of these models will not be exponential and stay exponential as it has been so far, right? Sam
Hmm.
Altman itself has said that they're not training the next generation of GPT because, you know, they are seeing diminishing returns, and it's already at a good level. And so we should probably focus more into how to embed into current workflows the models that we already have, how to fine
Hmm.
tune them, and find good use cases. So I don't know if there would be, you know, new paradigms completely as opposed to large language models, or we will continue evolving these approaches that we have found, you know, in the recent years.
Hmm.
But I think that the dust will settle a little bit. I mean, we will not keep up with this breakneck pace of the past few months,
Hmm.
and we will have some time to figure out how to embed this into workflows and processes, and we will find ways that are completely maybe counterintuitive. I mean, what comes natural to us right now is just to replicate things that we have been doing manually and try to do them with AI. But I think we will find things that are like native to AI that people cannot do at all. And these are not necessarily the use cases that we have found. Uh, I look forward to an age of more consolidation of how AI blends naturally into the workflows of engineering teams at all levels.
Interesting. Yeah, but you can see this already in some tools like Copilots, in different tools like Replit or GitHub,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's gonna grow more. Yeah. Interesting. What is the and I'm in I'm sorry if you were not ready for this question. Like, what is the craziest implementation of AI in have you seen?
Well, I think the the one that absolutely I thought it was the craziest was when I started seeing the whole agents, you know, trend with Auto GPT and Baby AGI, and because it genuinely looked like an incredible shift. But then, I mean, as it is often the case with these AI powered, you know, use cases and workflows, I tried them myself, and you can see that they work well, you know, in happy paths. But then when you leave them by themselves for some time, or you try them more thoughtfully, uh, you start to see the cracks. They do not always work, and they're not really autonomous. After, you know, 9 to 10 steps, they start to diverge completely from what they had to do. So I think one thing that I've learned is that there is a lot of excitement, and this ties back to what you said at the beginning, that once every two threads on Twitter is about AI. But there is also, you know, an incentive for people who write about this to write only about the good things and not about the limitations. Uh, so I don't say I'm skeptical, but today my first reaction to incredible use cases is always to ask myself, okay, but where is it that this is working and where it does not instead?
Yeah, 100% agree. 100 couldn't agree more. But did you not have a moment when you saw Auto GPT? Did you not have a moment of, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is gonna rule us. We're
Yes.
doomed.
Yeah, I mean, AutoGPT was incredible. The first time I saw it, it was okay. It's there. We are there, like Skynet, you know, and all AGI. I mean, I don't care whether, you know, it's the Turing test, all these things, you know, for theorists. In practical, it's there, but instead, it turns out it's not really there. And what I think is also that many people say, okay, it's not there, but, you know, the gap is very small. I mean, we will catch up. But the problem is that with many technologies, then you get diminishing returns, and growth becomes, you know, asymptotic, and so it seems that the gap is small, becomes smaller, but you never fill the gap. Like, you know, with
Right.
autonomous cars, with other stuff that seems to be coming, you know, next year, for the past 10 years.
Right.
I'm not sure whether AI is in the moment of history or category of technology that is going to be even more exponential or is going to be diminishing returns. If I had to bet, I would say when it comes to capabilities, we would see diminishing returns from where we stand, but not an expert. Let's see.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, I don't see many questions from audience, so please, if you have any, it's the time. If not, we're going to be wrapping up. But before we wrap up, I want to ask. Okay, I have another question. Okay,
Yeah.
when you say we're going to wrap up, I saw another question. I don't see it anymore.
Well, Jacob made another question here because yes, this one. Do you think there will be another a new position that will focus on finding processes that can be optimized with AI and then introducing it into their time team? I think this is a great question. And I think we can find the answer trying to draw some parallels with other similar stuff that happened in the past. For example, if you think about no code and low code tools that were equally very different things with respect to how people did stuff in the team and companies didn't know how to integrate them. What happened is that agencies that are specialized into this, into no code and low code tools, got created and kickstarted company efforts, and then eventually low code and citizen engineers positions get integrated into the companies. But you need some push to get started. Especially if your company is not very lean, is kind of big, you have inertia to win stakeholders that you have to convince. So I think that the new position will definitely happen, but the change will more likely come from some external initiative, at least at the beginning. I mean, leaders will not know how to do them themselves and will probably trust external organizations or consultancy to tell them how to embed AI into the companies, at least when it comes to big companies. Of course, startups will do all by themselves, probably. But big corps, I would bet on that.
Yaku has another question. If you could please put it up.
Yeah.
Do you see the question, Luca?
Yes. So, as you said, the power of GPT will not scale infinitely. Do you think there is a chance for smaller and specialized, like BERT models, come back? In my opinion, they can solve most problems with a fraction of price. So, I think this is a very interesting space to keep an eye on, because if I can make another analogy. Uh, think of cloud computing. Okay, so as long as the Moore law kept up, and we kept creating more and more powerful processors at a reliable frequency, it was just easier to scale vertically your infrastructure. You buy a bigger and more expensive machine, and it's easier than doing anything else. But then the giants of the like Google, the big tech came up, and they had to commoditize this. You went from having pets servers to cattle. You had to orchestrate them. You have commodity instances, and so I think AI may get the same treatment and get the phase where it has to transition from being pet to being cattle, to being commoditized. Maybe we will see companies orchestrate less powerful agents that are more commoditized, but maybe they have many of them. They have many instances, just like we see many instances of servers. I don't know what it will happen, but there is value in having lower powered but very specialized model. And we may even start thinking not just that absolute capabilities, but capabilities by watt or by power, by energy, to optimize this. So yes, it would make a lot of sense.
Thank you, Luca. Great answer. Great answer. All right, we're gonna be wrapping up, but before we go, I wanna do two things. First of all, what kind of tools can you share? What kind of tools are you using? What's interesting you see, and what people
Mhm.
should try.
Mhm.
and the second we're gonna go after that.
So one thing that I'm seeing with AI tools is that rather than spawning completely new products that are standalone, they get more likely well integrated into existing tools. If you see that most big products and companies have been even very fast at introducing AI into their tools, and I think it just makes sense because since AI is powered by data, uh, tools that already have the most data naturally, have an easier time to implement something from scratch. So when it comes to myself, I use GPT and the equivalent of ChatGPT more, for example, inside Notion, that is within my own workflow, than as a standalone product. And so I think, you see Figma plugins, Photoshop plugins, Microsoft that just, yesterday announced operating system wide GPT. So I think that rather than changing your tools and workflows altogether to fit AI in, I would try to fit AI inside the workflow that you have already today, because chances are that you have already ways of using that together. When it comes to use cases in general, I'm a content creator, I'm a writer, so I don't do exciting coding work anymore, unfortunately. So what AI is most beneficial to me is probably to manipulate information. So creating summaries or summarizing videos, putting chapters into YouTube videos. The whole transcoding use cases between from video to text, audio to text, and summarizing stuff. I mean, everything that makes my consumption and research easier, it's a boon. It's fantastic, and so I use it mostly for that.
Yeah, you're right. Summarizing things is just an incredible work, and you can rely on it because they don't have to come up with anything. Opposed to sometimes if you ask an open question, they can, the ChatGPT just can, if they don't know the answer, they just can try to come up with a question that is not accurate. Yeah, but
Yeah.
summarizing is great. I also been using a tool that my friend created called Bear AI, I think, and they just you
Mhm.
you go around the internet. And it can summarize anything for you.
I do the same. Yeah.
You use their AI?
No, I use it. I use short form, which
Mm,
I was already subscriber for book summaries, and they have a plugin for summarizing anything on the internet, and it goes into my highlighting workflow that goes on Notion and stuff. But
mhm.
yeah, the use case is the same. It opens up the new capabilities because sometimes there is an article that maybe it's 30 minutes long, and
Yeah.
I don't have I mean, I wouldn't read it otherwise. Yeah, it's not like, I mean, even if the summary is not perfect, the alternative is that I wouldn't read it at all. So
Mhm.
it's better than nothing. So it was a game changer for me.
This is 100%. This 100%. My craziest case that I used, I'm not a developer, so I never tried to do that. But my craziest case is when a few months ago, a commercial truck hit my car and the insurance declined the liability. So I asked ChatGPT what to do, and ChatGPT said you can threaten the insurance company, you can threaten the trucking company, whatever. And I told them, okay, do whatever you need to do. And they created all these letters that I sent out to different people, and in the end I got paid. So I got like $5,000 just out of $20 per
Incredible.
month to tool.
Incredible.
Just and my conversation was like, explain me what are my options and what I have to do, and then explain me how to do this smarter, meaning like how to write this letter smarter, how to
Yeah.
and also like when I do, I don't trust the first answer. I never trust the first answer. I always ask what are the problems with this thing, like what can I do better, what are
Yeah.
the flaws in this letter,
Yeah.
how can this hurt me. So when you do this conversation you can find a lot of flaws, as you said, like a lot of
Yeah.
cracks in the logic, and you can find, but if you know what you're asking, this is the best,
Yeah.
this is the most smart thing, not smart, I'm sorry, it's the most important thing. You have to know what you're asking, because if you
Yes.
ask the
Agree.
open question, it's not gonna it can hurt you. But if you know what you're asking, you can really up your game in almost any field.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see, people who start using AI for the first time do is that they write very short prompts. They don't not follow up much. I mean, they think that maybe unconsciously AI cannot keep up with a lot of context, a lot of detailed instructions, while instead it definitely is. And you get like 10 times better results if you start creating prompts that say exactly how the results should be formatted, what they should come up with precisely, which is not natural. I think we still don't think like AI can do this, but it can. And so I agree, people should stick with creating prompts, learning how to improve, because you can get easily like 10 times better results if you stick with it for a while.
It's true. It's true. All right, Luca, it was such a pleasure talking to you today,
Pleasure is
and
mine. Thank you for having me.
I hope we can do this day. So before we go, where people can find you?
Sure. So my newsletter is called Refactoring. So you can find me on Substack, refactoring.fm. I write a weekly newsletter about writing good software and working well with humans so far, maybe even AI in the future. More than 30,000 subscribers. You can subscribe for free. There is also a community. There is a paid version if you want to learn more. So you can find these days me definitely on the community and on the newsletter.
Right, and I'm a reader for I think already for over a year, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love the summaries, and it's a great newsletter. You should subscribe.
Hi
Thank you so
guys,
much.
I'm here just to remind you that we have to pick the best question. We don't have a lot, but Jakob and Mihailo got really good questions. So what do you think? What do you think? Or we should keep these contest more and advise people to ask you in LinkedIn uh, questions, and then we'll
Hmm.
choose. What do you think? Because we don't have a lot of questions here.
That's a good question. Do you think I should pick up a winner? I'm
Yeah,
going to the questions right now.
we have a question from Mihaila.
We have another
Yeah.
question popped up. If you have a second to
Yeah,
answer,
I
Luca.
do. Can AI do test-driven development or behavior-driven development? So I know guys that have been doing TDD or using AI, even not strictly TDD, but using AI to write most of their tests. Uh, I think these all workflows around tests are very interesting because, I mean, I know guys that write the code manually and make the AI write the test. I know also people who do the opposite. I mean, they make the AI write the code and then the AI writes the tests. And I also happen to know people who make the AI write everything. I mean, AI writes both the code and the tests. So I don't know where we'll land on this. What we will find to be the best way. But yes, I don't have a personal experience with AI and BDD, but TDD, yes, I think it can.
I was muted. I'm sorry. We can keep this. We can keep this contest going for another week, and in a week, just summarize all the questions. They will come to YouTube, and we'll ask Luca just to go to YouTube and LinkedIn to answer the questions that will come up after, because we will have at
I
least
will.
100 to 200 people, right? They're gonna listen this after and can ask more questions, and after that, we can pick a winner if this is fine.
This is
Perfect.
fine.
Okay.
This is fine. Settled. Thank you very much, guys.
Cool. Thank you, Yula. Thank you, Luca. It was a great
Thank you,
pleasure.
guys. My pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a good day. Bye.